Well, ladies and gents, it turns out Starmer was right for once. We do have a problem with anti-Semitism in this country. Who would have guessed it? I wonder where the anti-Semitism comes from. Right, we'll get into that. But first of all, what I want to talk about today is a Green Party member, a Green Party candidate for Newcastle. The lady called Tina Iron. This is the candidate who moonlighted as a anti-Semitic poster. Now, this candidate would go on and post many memes that will get people like me and you locked up. If they were about a different kind of people or a different ideology, we would see prison for exactly what she posted. That is bad enough, but when you consider she is running as a Green Party candidate in Newcastle, so you have to ask, I mean, you can listen to her stupid defense if you like. Anti-Zionism, anti-Semitism. It's 2026. They're the same thing. There is no differential between them. They are the same thing. Anyway, what I'm talking about is this here. Tina Iron, a Green Party candidate in Newcastle, used the social media platform Threads to call for every single Zionist to be killed and labelled Zionist Jews as vermin and rats. I thought carbonite anti-Semitism was as bad as it gets, but the Green Party has proved me wrong. When you look at the messed up way the UK is fucked. There is no ifs or buts about it, is there? The UK is well and truly fucked. And you have somebody like this. Now, this was her actual post here. You will see her name she goes on Threads is The Real Anne Frank. And she has a picture of Anne Frank in, is that a cafe? It certainly looks like it. It wouldn't surprise me, does it? But this is it. Look at the image. Like it states here, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Tina Iron, a candidate for the Green Party in Newcastle, where she posts Zionist juicer, feet first, of course. No matter who you are, if we, people like me and you, if the average Brit posted something like that about another ideology, we will get knocked up at 3 o'clock in the morning and dragged out in our pyjamas and our nighties to be arrested and spend the night in the cell. And people like this are untouched. I suppose the way the UK is, the exact way the UK works at the minute, if you're against Jews, absolutely fine. I think it was Tommy Robinson nailed it, wasn't it? When he was on about Keir Starmer and the amount of churches that got attacked in 2023 versus 2 mosques. Yet Keir Starmer gave 5 million to the Catholic Church and 60 million to the mosques. It tells you everything you need to know. But let's see what she says. Let's see the rebuttal, because the rebuttal... Now, let's see the rebuttal. The rebuttal is no accountability. This is what she said. Ion, who is standing in Newcastle City Council's Blake Law and Cowgate Ward, said isolated fragments of her statements have been used to distort her core values and said she had distorted her core values. What are your core values? And said she had stated her solidarity with the Jewish people throughout her life. Right, is that why you go on all these Hamas marches and shouting from the river to the sea? We all know what that means. And calling for intifada in the UK. Is that you standing in solidarity your whole life with the Jewish people? My criticism is not directed at an ethnicity or religion. It is directed at a political ideology and a set of state actions, she said. Do you know, that excuse doesn't work for us, does it? We stand against an ideology. We still go to jail. The common denominator among those I criticise, from Zionist Jewish hardliners to Western supporters and our own government, is not their culture, but their active support for what the International Court of Justice has deemed a plausible risk of genocide. Do you know, we have this whole genocide thing over and over again. Now, Zach Polanski was recently talking with Trevor Phillips, and in a roundabout way with Zach Polanski's comments, come out and put it across like, maybe it's the Jewish people are making it up. Maybe it's not that bad. Maybe it's not as bad as it seems. Yet, since day one, they have marched on the streets for a genocide which many people have questioned, is there actually a genocide? So how comes it works for him, but not for others? And we don't see a genocide. What we seen was Hamas attacking Israel. What we see in the streets of the UK is the Islamist ideology attacking our women and children, attacking Jews. That's what we see. And yet, they're constantly painted as the victims. And the law has been rewritten in real time, on the fly, to protect that same ideology. Now, many people call me racist. Look, I don't care what colour you are, but you can't be racist against an ideology. You simply cannot. It's not race, is it? Many different races can follow the same ideology. But it works for them in their favour, never for us. Now, I'll play some snippets of Zach Polanski with Trevor Phillips. And I'm also going to play this from GB News, where Camilla took on a Labour MP and asked her the question outright, why don't they mention Islamists? Why don't they mention Islam?
You recently said that there needs to be a conversation about whether there's a perception of unsafety or actual unsafety in Jewish communities. After this week, do you think this is still a matter for debate?
Well, the full quote is that I said both are unacceptable. And anti-Semitism and Jewish safety is not some abstract concept for me. In fact, in the last 6 weeks alone, 2 people have actually been arrested in relation to anti-Semitic actions towards me. And yesterday, the Times newspaper published a vile anti-Semitic cartoon, which we've asked them to apologise for. Now, I don't believe that we make Jewish safety any better by escalating tensions. I think it's really important we recognise how scary it is at the moment for so many communities. We saw 3 people stabbed this week on Wednesday, 1 Muslim man and 2 Jewish men. And I think it's important that we all work as leaders to de-escalate tensions, to bring communities together, recognise the work of interfaith groups and also non-faith groups as well.
That is a nicely political answer, but it's not the answer to the question I asked you. You said that there needs to be a conversation about whether there is a perception of unsafety or actual unsafety in Jewish communities. Let me ask you again. Do you still think that is a matter for debate?
As I say,
is it a matter for a conversation? Or do you accept that actually there's not a perception, there is actual unsafety?
Well, I think the conversation is rolling out right now. I definitely think there's unsafety for Jewish people, and I never said there wasn't. I said both were unacceptable.
No, what you said is there needs to be a conversation. I looked at your words,
right,
which suggests that you think that there's a choice and that perhaps some people might be thinking that there's a problem, but there isn't really a problem. So you're telling me this morning that's not in question. You accept that there is actual unsafety, and that's what's going to be tackled.
What I said was spot on. There are times when Jewish people, including myself, are actively unsafe. That's clearly very true, and it's always been true. There's also times where we hear marches, Palestinian marches, that I as a Jewish person walk on, where Jewish people say that makes them feel unsafe. Now, I don't think that actually makes them unsafe, clearly, because I'm a Jewish person who is on that march. So I think it's about having a conversation about how do we ensure that Jewish people are safe and Jewish people feel safe at times when they may perceive themselves to be unsafe.
Oh, that's interesting. So these marches where many Jewish people, frankly, most Jewish people that you or I would meet, say that they feel it makes them unsafe. Let me put a thought experiment to you. Imagine you are talking to Shlomi Rand or Norman Shine, the 2 men who were stabbed in Golders Green. How do you persuade them that what happened to them was somehow kind of in their imaginations? I mean, you've got to be clear about this. You can't have it both ways. Either there is something real here, or you're saying that some Jewish people are not making it up, but they're imagining something that is real that isn't real.
Trevor, that's an outrageous distortion of what I just said.
No, I'm kind of repeating what you've just said, what you said earlier in the week, and what you've just said to me, actually.
Welcome back. Joining me now is the Secretary of State for Transport, Heidi Alexander. Lovely to see you this morning, Minister. Thank you so much for joining my GB News show. Can I ask, Do you think that the Jewish community of Great Britain can trust a word the Prime Minister says on anti-Semitism when only yesterday, actually in your old constituency of Lewisham, we had pro-Palestinian marchers chanting "from the river to the sea"?
So I think the British Jewish community can and should trust our Prime Minister, because I know from speaking to him, speaking to the Home Secretary, that this is a government that is absolutely determined to drive this vile ideology of anti-Semitism from our country and from our society. What happened in Golders Green on Wednesday this week was utterly appalling and abhorrent. And I think the Prime Minister was right to say that an attack on the British Jewish community is an attack on Britain, full stop. It's an attack on our British values, our British decency, our British security. And I think Sarah Sackman, the MP for Golders Green, was right to say as well that targeting the Jewish community in this way is absolutely unconscionable. That's why we have taken steps to increase the resources that the police have and the Community Safety Trust have, to increase the amount of police patrols and make sure that security can be put in place for people. But this is treating the symptoms of the problem. It's not treating the root cause. And so
what is the root cause?
So I think that we have to tackle anti-Semitism. And we've started to do that, for example, in some of our public services where we knew that there was a problem in the NHS, and Wes Streeting, the Health Secretary, has been quite clear about the need to make sure that everyone, when they're in hospital as a patient, when
what's the root cause, though? Because we've got successive politicians not willing to grasp the nettle here. What's the root cause of anti-Semitism in the UK?
I think it's a lack of education.
In which communities?
And so, look, that's what I think it's... unfortunately, I think it's found in lots of different walks of life. And that's why a couple of hours, actually, before the attacks happened on Wednesday, one of the things the government had done under the leadership of Sir David Bell was launch a call for evidence about what more we can do in our schools, our colleges, on university campuses. And I also think, a lot of people absorb information, anti-Semitic content online, and that content is illegal if it is anti-Semitic. And, we're starting to take action through that, through the Online Safety Act. But whether it's online, in our schools, in our public services, frankly, in the day-to-day conversations that everyone has, I think the Chief Rabbi was right when he said this week that we need more people in the country to voice how abhorrent this is. And it's also why, look, if you look back at what the Home Secretary has done, she took action to ban the Al-Quds March earlier this year. First time in 40 years, we've given more powers.
We still have people marching through the streets of London saying "from the river to the sea," which is effectively saying that you want to wipe out the state of Israel. We had the Metropolitan Chief Commissioner, Sir Mark Rowley, say that there was a ghastly Venn diagram of hate, suggesting it was coming from the extreme left or the extreme right. Why is nobody saying where it's currently predominantly coming from, which is some members of the Islamic community? It's coming from extremists within Muslim communities. And that's backed up by some statistics here. 65% of young Muslims believe Israel doesn't have a right to exist. Less than a quarter of British Muslims think that Hamas committed rape and murder on October the 7th. I know it's uncomfortable, but why can't politicians say where this hate is actually coming from, as opposed to skirting around the outsides of this issue? I don't understand
I don't think anyone is skirting around any issue, Camilla, to be honest. One of the reasons why we
mentioned Islamic extremism yet in this interview.
One of the reasons why the threat level in this country was raised on Thursday of this week was because of the growth of terrorist-related activity linked to Islamist ideology, and also, to be honest, linked to far-right ideology as well. And so, no one's trying to sugarcoat this problem. We will tackle it wherever we find it. I heard the Home Secretary earlier this week talking, as a very senior Muslim figure in this country, talking about how also it was incumbent upon people from, the Muslim community to condemn anti-Semitism. And look, the experience I have had actually when I've done interfaith work, whether that's in Swindon, where I'm the MP currently, whether it was in Lewisham, the place that you referred to earlier, is that there are a lot of good people that want to make a difference. There are some people who seem to have poison running in their veins. Okay. And we have to build understanding of one another's cultures, one another's history, and we need to share the British values of tolerance, respect.
All right.
For one another.
We need to move on because I've got so much to ask you and I've only got 3 minutes left, Miss Alexander. Sorry.
They always find a way to bring the far right into it, don't they? Are the far right renowned? When I say the far right, I just mean those who disagree with the left. That's all the far right are. Simply disagreeing with ridiculous ideologies. Are the right renowned for attacking Jewish people? I don't think so, do you? And to mention the Online Safety Act is protecting nobody. And I've said this many times before. They brought in the Online Safety Act as the guise of protecting children, while importing real-life danger to children makes no sense at all. If you can make it make sense, tell me. And this is the situation we're at. But what I'm going to say right now, we can't get rid of Keir Starmer because the people pulling the strings won't let him go. And I've said before, we just whinge and moan on the waves of criticism, then forget. That's all that ever happens. That's what they're waiting for, us to forget. I get approached in the street. I get told the country's going to shit. The government's going to have us broke and the government's going to ruin us and all this, that and the other. And I don't want to hear it. You're telling me something I already know. What I want to know are solutions. When are we going to stop trying to talk, trying to fix a corrupt system with that said corrupt system? The time for talking is done. It is a time for action is what we need. And right now, we have Keir Starmer, we have the Labour Party, we have the Green Party, every party pretending to care about the Jewish people. They could not give a flying toss about the Jewish people. Not at all. They really couldn't. But that's what they're going to do. And they're going to say, we're all in this together. Keir, I want to remind you, you and your merry band of arseholes are the ones that are importing these people. And it's not a case of them coming across. They're not asylum seekers. You are bringing them across. You're releasing them on the streets, ignoring the people, telling you they're dangerous because you already know they're dangerous. I'm not saying every Muslim is dangerous. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is for a country to be safe, this is why we vet people. This is why we have a proper immigration process, or we used to. Because when you let people from extreme parts of the world, which is always in conflict one way or another, it always has been through history. If they can't fight Jews, they can't fight Christians, they fight themselves. They create different sects within themselves and fight themselves. And that's what the Middle East has been. When you let these people come in unchecked so we don't know who the fuck they are, and you say, oh yeah, they're 14, and they come and they've got a cane, they've got a big white beard, half the teeth missing, wrinkles to fuck. Yeah, come on. But this is the point. This is what you're trying to do. And I'm going to dispel a myth because I'm sick to fucking death of seeing this all over YouTube and X and stuff like this. Labour are not doing what they're doing for the vote. It is not about the voting bloc. It is purely by design. Why do you think Europe's doing the same? Why do you think Australia's doing it? If Donald Trump had not got into the US would have been the test bed under Kamala Harris. Instead of it being the UK, it would have started in the US. It is not about the vote. And once you understand that, you'll start realising what it's really about. But I'm going to say this right now. Everything Keir Starmer has done, if anybody else had done 5% of this, they would have been gone. His strings are being pulled. He's not bright enough. You know, Keir Starmer has no awareness. He's not bright enough to figure any of this out. But once you start realising that, there's so many times this guy should be out on his ear. And I mean out. No police protection after the fact. He's in the real world with real people. And the country he's created, he will be a part of with no protection. That's what should happen. Or just put him in jail. Or deport him to a foreign jail. I don't give a fuck what you do with him. He's the one person in this world I absolutely hate. And I hate very few people. But from that, his treasonous acts, his anti-British acts, openly racist to the people he's in power to serve. And they are openly racist. They've weaponized the police and the judiciary against their own people to import an ideology. They are crashing the economy on purpose, again, of course. They are making you pay for your own destruction. Now, when it comes to it, when you look, they will say, we're all in this together, you know, report on any anti-Semitism, call it out, do what you can, play your part. Okay, we've done that since day one. We've called everything out. And what have you done? You've put us in prison, you fucking rat. That's all you've fucking done. You and your party, and the Green Party for that matter, which, by God, they are in with a shot for the next election. Just bear that in mind. They are really in with a shot. And God help us if they do. But Keir Starmer and his party have allowed all this. They've encouraged it. They facilitated it. They funded it. They refused to prescribe the IRGC. You know, in my book, I would like to see, and they should be by all means, the Labour Party prescribed as a terrorist organisation. Because to me, that is exactly what they are, a terrorist organisation. Now, guys, on that, because I can't make these videos anymore because I get wound up. I come on and I think to myself, right, just be impartial and say what you need to say and get off. But the more, when I try to say it, I feel myself getting wound up and frustrated. So I apologise for my anger that comes through on these videos. I really do. That is not my intention. I intend to just come on here, say what I want to say, and that's it. But yeah, I'm sorry about that, guys, but I'll catch you in the next video. I'll get used to it at some point.